Hey, Steve Stine from Guitar Zoom here, and today what I'd like to do is help you to understand the basic overview of being able to see your entire fretboard as one element. Now, normally when we learn how to play scales, okay, which is what we're going to be dealing with today, we learn how to play them in sections or patterns, right? So we might call it pattern number 1 or whatever it might be. And that's great, and we need to do that. There's no doubt about it. But the goal with that is to be able to see the bigger picture. So we no longer really have to use the words, you know, pattern 1 or pattern 5 or whatever it might be to be able to see them. So for instance, what we're going to be doing right now is I'm going to be talking about the key of G major. Now, I don't want to go into great detail on theory and all that stuff. If that's something that you need to study, I think that's wonderful. But what I want to do is just set up a visual picture of you of what the fretboard would look like, and then you can start kind of working with it. Because when I go to solo, like if I'm going to play over something in the key of G, okay, what I do is I try and visualize all the different places that I can move across the guitar so it's fun for me as a player and it's fun for my listener. So instead of just getting kind of locked into one position on the guitar, and only having that, I could kind of go wherever I want. You know, I mean, and the possibilities are endless. So that's what I want to help you with today, is being able to kind of see the bigger picture of what's happening here. Again, we're not going to get into great detail on the theory behind G major and the chords of G major. That's a theory thing. And again, I have guitar courses that cover all that stuff as well. But today we're going to do is we're really going to just kind of lock into what we see here. So let's start with just talking about the key of G major. Now, the notes that we're going to be looking at here are going to be G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. Now, why am I choosing the key of G? If you've played a lot of guitar or enough guitar, you know that there's a whole lot of songs out there that are written in the key of G, using like G, C, and D and things like that. So it's a really practical key to start working with. Now, everything that we learn is going to be movable. The entire system that we're going to learn is movable across the guitar into whatever key you want to be in. But I always like to tell people, let's start with just one key and really kind of, you know, charge it and for lack of a better term, kind of master it as best we can, because then it gives us the freedom when we're in this very common key. We have a lot of comfortability to move around and get really creative. Then if we have to play in the key of D or something, you know, yes, we can learn how to do that, no doubt about it. We might be a little less comfortable at first, and that's okay, but we have this one really common key that we can really rock in, and that's kind of what we're looking for here. So that's why we're choosing the key of G. Now, if you know anything about theory, you also know that if you learn the key of G major, you're also learning the key of E minor at the same time. Now, again, I don't want to get into big theory about this stuff, but if we're in the key of G major, our notes are G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then it goes back to G. And the key of E minor uses those same notes. So a really easy way to think about this is if you're in the key of G major, or any key for that matter, and you go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes, that note that you're playing is what we often refer to as the relative minor. Okay? So just understand that if the song was in E minor, and think about how many songs you've played that are in E minor, especially if you play rock or metal or anything like that, you play it all the time. So the beauty of learning G major is you're also learning E minor at the same time. G major and E minor, or E natural minor, or whatever you want to call it, use the same notes, they use the same chords, so we can really say they are the same thing. The difference is going to be in your approach to soloing, which we're going to get into a little bit later. Okay? So just understand that basic idea, and again, if you want to, you know, dive deeper into the theory, you certainly can, but we're going to be looking at the key of G major across the guitar, and while we're learning G major, we're also understanding that the key of G major is also the same as the key of E minor, and again, we're going to get into a couple of examples of that a little later, and then we'll get into pentatonics and whatnot. So make sure you're tuned up, and let's go ahead and start tackling this G major scale across the guitar.